Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about DA Alvin Bragg's lawsuit against Jim Jordan in his official capacity as the head of the subcommittee on weaponization of the federal government and others involved in the whole effort to perform so-called oversight on Bragg and find out about the investigation of Donald Trump. So, if you've been following, there's been a lot of back and forth, and where Jordan in particular, but also Representative Comer, also Kevin McCarthy, have been really, thumping their chests and saying that we are going to oversee this and get to the bottom of it. This and all kinds of disparaging comments about the prosecution of Trump. If you take a step back, it's really clear this is exactly the kind of thing that can't be done even by a New York state legislature. Imagine in the parallel position of a legislative effort to oversee what's going on in the Department of Justice. That's a straight up separation of powers violation. It's the core kind of executive function to be going and developing an investigation, and it has to be kept quiet for constitutional due process reasons, for reasons having to do with rules of the grand jury, for protection of defendants, and all those things. But that hasn't deterred Jordan, and the complaint that was filed in federal court just a couple hours ago gives all kinds of details of the back and forth demands and mischaracterizations and really kind of serious rabble rousing. Bragg points out that he's received all kinds of death threats, and of course, having the members of the majority party in Congress say these histrionic and false things about the prosecution is a way to really work people up. All right, so Bragg comes to federal court and says there's a couple big problems with what Jordan and this committee is trying to do. First, they just don't have any authority. The Congress has no general police power. That's a famous division that was made, in the 18th century, and that's maybe the most important power left for the states. So they just have no business kind of pouring through the sock and underwear drawer of a local prosecutor. And even if they did, anything Congress does, you have to have a valid legislative purpose for. They haven't stated one. I mean, they really all they've done is just scream and throw their weight around and look menacing as Congress. It's a little bit ironic, in fact, because this is the Republican Party who you would expect to be rather respectful of local power, state sovereignty, and the like. So there are two counts in this complaint. One says that, you don't have any general power for starters, and you don't have a legislative purpose, and there's all these principles of state sovereignty and federalism in the 10th Amendment and the 11th Amendment that you're violating when you threaten to do all these things and act tough and try to basically take over and root around in the investigation of Trump. Which they've been sort of rattling their sabers since before the indictment and now as well. So that's basis one, and basis two is everything you're thinking about here is grand jury material. It's kept secret. It's kept secret for good reasons. You've got to back down and stop trying to unearth this stuff. So pretty cleverly, I think, Bragg, they don't ask for any kind of money damages, or they don't, it's very much in general terms in the Constitution, and they ask for declaratory judgment. They ask for the federal district court to say, hey, there's a dispute here because, and you have to always have that dispute standing and ripeness, but they have it here because Jordan and those guys are going after them so menacingly. So, district court, can you give us a piece of paper that gives your declaration of the law and specifies that this committee is not permitted to ask for all these things. They should quash a subpoena and not serve other subpoenas that they're threatening to do against Bragg and others personally, including, by the way, Mark Pomerantz, who is, you may recall, the guy who was previously involved in the lawsuit and has written a book, and they have subpoenaed him as well. And so the all of these efforts and contemplated efforts that are really kind of on the horizon, they need to be shut down. And you need to tell basically Jim Jordan and the weaponization subcommittee to mind their own business. And that certainly doesn't include the investigative fine points and goings on of the Donald Trump case in the Manhattan DA's office. Moreover, all these things they're saying about why the case is bogus or prejudicial against Trump or political, all those things Trump can bring under New York law. He doesn't need the Congress to do it, and Congress doesn't have the power to do it. It's all just trying to score political points in a legal arena where they have no business being. So there you have it. Looks like a strong complaint to me. We'll see if a federal district court judge in Manhattan grants the motion and tells Jordan and company to stand down. It's probably going to keep going up to the Second Circuit, maybe the Supreme Court, and certainly the general efforts, whatever the court says, you'll still see the Congress trying somehow to weed in Alvin Bragg's garden for sure, if only to score political points. So it's a really pretty strong lawsuit. We'll keep our eyes on exactly what the district court does with it, and probably will do it in short order, and then maybe the courts of above them as well. So stay tuned. Until then, talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.